This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead for this Sunday morning. Seth Merrill from Equidaily.com, Steve Bick from Sirius and XM's At the Races. You're looking at me over there.
I am. I was looking at the tie and the shirt. The blues are nice, and then you got the kind of catch-all blazer. It works. It works.
Thank you. I try to keep you happy. Last week I was wearing a couple of your ties, in fact.
Attaboy!
From the Bago ties.
Sacco ties. That might be your Christmas gift again this year.
Your hand-me-down ties?
Tell me.
I wore them, though. I was wearing them all.
He also keeps them in the back seat of his car. You've never seen anything like it. You want to talk about, you think ladies, if those of you watching, you think your husbands are a problem, you should see what's going on there. He's got an entire armoire in his back seat. Drives around. You can see him pitching around for his ties in the back, and we make fun of women, putting on makeup. He's driving in from Amsterdam, tying ties. That's what you're dealing with.
The only thing is, I can't say anything because it's
absolutely 100% accurate.
Oh well, but let's shift our attention over to the horse racing news.
What horse racing?
Over the past couple of days, the NYRA schedule for 2015 came out. There were a couple of notable things. With the conversation over the past few months about Saratoga essentially stays the same. Now, Labor Day is very late in 2015. It's September 7th, as late as it can be. That means opening day is July 24th, but it's essentially the same schedule. The other notable thing was there'll be a little break at the end of March 23rd to March 31st, no racing.
Well, and of course, we've got Monday racing tomorrow in New York, and then the 10-day break as well. So these little extended breaks, frankly, everybody likes that.
Yeah.
It's great for the horses. It's great for the horsemen. It's great for the racing office because horses get freshened up and then they can come back and they fill up the entry box. The one thing that always makes me laugh is when I see the reaction, oh, the Saratoga schedule is out. The Saratoga schedule is out basically 3 minutes after the last race on Labor Day the previous year, because all you got to do is look at Labor Day the next year and back it up the 7 weeks. It's not a complicated process.
There was the discussion, though, about potentially last year, but yeah. We should, before we get any further, you brought some more books in that people might want to look at for the holidays.
You're getting down to crunch time for shopping, and believe me, Tina and I were out driving around yesterday, and lots of mayhem at the malls. So don't leave the couch, don't leave your desk. Round 2 of our books. For those of you that missed Jessica Hours, her second book, this is Peter Pan, coming from Australia. And Peter Pan, of course, was the horse that after Phar Lap left the scene in the early 30s. Peter Pan, who was a very different kind of champion in Australia, a horse that was bred in the purple. Peter Pan, as you can see, fairly voluminous. Jessica Hours, O-W-E-R-S, who does a tremendous job, and we're seeing her more and more in North America, covering the Australasia scene. We'll talk about Hong Kong in a minute. This is a book that it occurred to me that I've never shown as a potential purchase. It's called Horse Words, the Equine Dictionary. Maria Belknap. There's a second edition that came out last year. And for those of you that are interested in the entire world of the equine, this is a wonderful resource. And it's got not just racing terminology, but virtually everything you could possibly imagine. The Equine Dictionary, Horse Words, not a out of reach suggestion you might enjoy. Mark Kramer was with us, and of course many of you know Mark. Here is his most recent, which is Handicapping on the Road, and of course it encompasses 2 topics that Kramer is famous for: his travel log and his worldwide traveling interest, and the books he writes when he visits far-flung countries. Bolivia is probably his favorite country, which is I would say I would make Bolivia somebody's favorite country about 20 to 1. off, maybe 30 to 1 actually. But handicapping on the road, his bicycling pals, they are traveling across the world, visiting little tiny racetracks and much bigger, well-known racetracks, handicapping on the road you'll enjoy. And I'm bringing this book back because the topic is back in the news thanks to the morons at the Bureau of Land Management, who may be the worst human beings on the planet. But you've also got a governor in Wyoming who should be rousted out. This is Deanne Stillman's Mustang. It is a story of the Mustang environment in the really the wilds of the West, the areas of the country, in some cases grazing lands and ranch lands, and the wild horse population is managed, quote unquote, by the BLM. And Deanne Stillman's book, this is, if you want to learn everything there is to know and understand the situation facing the Mustangs out in the West, this is the book to read. Just tremendous. Mustang by Deanne Stillman. So there you go, some more reading suggestions. Make it easy. Go to your favorite book website, whether it's Amazon. I'll give you another book site, by the way, that people may not know. Those of you that like Lyrical Ballad in Saratoga, the rare and used bookstore when you're looking for offbeat titles, there's a website called Biblio, BIBLIO.com. And it's an alternative to Amazon. And it is basically a network of shops like Lyrical Ballad. And so if you're ever looking for something, an offbeat title, if you're trying to find out of print books, and of course not just about equine life, which is our favorite, but any topic, Biblio, BIBLIO.com.
And it was probably worth mentioning Lyrical Ballad, because if you're out there looking for a kind of a unique gift,
absolutely,
head up to Saratoga and head into Lyrical Ballad if you want to find some unique equine-oriented books. That's certainly a place to go. I'll also mention I have a link right now on Equidaily to the Clancy Brothers annual calendar, the ST Publishing calendar with some great horse racing pictures.
I'll make you mentioned calendar, because of course those of you that listen to the radio show, you probably heard yesterday the replay, Santa Anita's calendar. Happy At the Races listeners and Capital OTB customers. If you write to Rick Hammerly at Santa Anita, the racing director, Rick and I, the last 7 years.
I was going to say, it's been a while.
Yeah, 7 years giving the Santa Anita calendar. They'll give that away at Santa Anita on opening day. It's an absolutely glorious, beautiful calendar. And if you write to Rick, Santa Anita calendar at yahoo.com. Santa Anita calendar, yahoo.com. And you write to Rick, tell him about a racing anecdote, tell them how you listen to the radio show. If you watch it on Capital OTB the next morning, the rebroadcast, however you listen to our show, and Rick and the racing office and Rick's family, because his wife and daughter address the envelopes. We give away 600 or 700 every year. So Santa Anita calendar at yahoo.com, and calendar is spelled with an A, by the way, at the end. I had somebody email me and say, Steve, that link, that address isn't working. And I noticed that he spelled calendar D-E-R, and I wrote back, didn't want to embarrass him. I said, but try this spelling and it may work better.
So keep that in mind. And you alluded to it a moment ago when you talked about foreign racing. And Mark Kramer, you mentioned Hong Kong in there, and the Hong Kong International races last night. The Hong Kong International Jockey Challenge was this week. Irad Ortiz was the North American representative, wound up tying for last, tying for ninth, but tied with Christophe Soumillon. So he was in some good company in these jockey challenges.
They're stupid.
Yeah,
they're
fun, I think.
They're ridiculous.
They're fun, but you can't really judge anything by him because, randomly selected horses and whatnot.
Exactly.
You know,
It just depends on what horse you end up with.
But they're fun to kind of root for. But last night, the international races, as of this time every year, boy, every year they get really good fields there. And the race, to me, that stood out and was notable for us, again, from kind of a rooting interest, was the Vase, which was won by Flintshire. Flintshire comes out of the second place finish behind Trev in the Arc, but more importantly for us, was second this year in the Breeders' Cup Turf behind Main Sequence. Well, he goes out there in the Hong Kong Vase and winds up winning.
And Maxime Guillon, and if you watch the Vase, if you haven't seen it yet, when you watch the replay, the pace is not fast at all. They're going slow early, and here is Flintshire in the back of the pack. And Guillon has to quicken as they turn for home, and Flintshire just gobbles them up and wins well. Willie Casals, Doug White ends up, I think he had 3 seconds. If I'm not mistaken, I think White had 3 seconds in the big races. So a good day, when you're running for $2 and $3 million purses, you finish second 3 times. It's a good day. But always happy when Juddmonte, which is the classiest operation in the world and probably the savviest. Always root for Juddmonte and Flintshire. Got things off to a rousing start at 1 a.m. if you were watching.
Red Cadeau winds up running 6th in there, another notable
Ran
name.
evenly.
Yeah. The Hong Kong Sprint, it was Aero Velocity getting it done. And I'm just looking down the past performances. Soul Power is a name folks may be familiar with, but not as many familiar names.
Well, Gordon Lord Byron, of course, but Aero Velocity, very serious, and he was really sharp winning this thing under Zach Purton. I enjoyed that race, actually. That came right after, minutes after the Vase. Then you had to wait a while, and at that point, it was time for La La Land, bedtime for Bonzo. We had to catch the 2 late races at 2:30 and 3:30. Had to watch them this morning.
Abel Friend wins the Hong Kong Mile with a jockey that may float under the radar, but internationally,
Joe Marrero.
A lot of people
Terrific.
who watch over here may not know, but internationally he's.
Well, because he came over. Who brought him over? Did Wesley Ward bring him over for
briefly?
Just for a little cameo. He had an opportunity to come to the U.S. to ride. This kid is serious out there. I mean, he is as good a jock as there is in the world, and not just right now, this minute, but for the last couple of years. Joe Marrera, and he not only wins with Abel Friend, Gold Fun a second year in a row in the mile under Doug White. And then the big race, which was absolutely terrific. If you haven't seen the Cup yet, it is spectacular. Designs on Rome and Military Attack hook up, and it's obvious out in the middle of the racetrack that they're going to contest this to the wire, and they just go at it tooth and nail. And Marrera, again, wins here on Designs on Rome. And this was really an exciting finish to the night.
Sirius de Oggs finishes
Ran
fourth.
good. Ran another typical Sirius de Agla is amazing. That Designs on Rome caught my eye because that dam is a sister to a horse that won in North America. It's an international family, but there was a horse, Simple Exchange, for Dermot Weld, Moiglair, that came about 10 years ago and won the Secretariat or the American Derby, or came to the U.S. and won a 3-year-old turf race, and happens to be, when I saw that dam's name, I looked at the family and I saw Simple Pleasure, or Simple Exchange was the sibling's name. But it's a nice European family, and Designs on Rome. As always, the Hong Kong International Race is a big part of the end of the year action.
Yeah, and why don't we take a look at one replay before we go to a break, and then we'll save some other ones for the next segment. But take a look at the Starlet yesterday from Los Alamitos.
This is important.
Nice stakes races around the country, but this is where the focus was, I think, a Grade 1 event that had eclipse implications. And I said it earlier on the Handicappers Report. The fractions weren't much, 23, 47 and change, 111 and change, so you had to think Take Charge Brandy was going to have it right in her wheelhouse coming to the top of the stretch. But they kind of come up to her, and maybe all the travel and whatnot, you started to think, oh, maybe that's going to catch up to her. And I kind of felt they were going to pass her here, and now she's resilient. And then there was a second spot where I thought, oh, no, they're going to go by. But boy, she really was absolutely resilient in here. A nice half-length win. Coming up the rail will be number 4, Feathered, for Todd Pletcher, Mike Smith on board. But I thought this was a really nice effort from Take Charge Brandy, which I think put the exclamation on her for the Eclipse Award.
Wow. We're gonna have a difficult time with this because I think she's a complete mediocrity and an absolute, basically is beating up on completely average and ordinary.
Yeah, but who else
dirt
is
fillies.
out there? I mean, I don't disagree with that.
Lady Eli.
Yeah, but
Lady Eli is so much better than this horse. It isn't even a debate, and no less than a guy like Nick Luck, the Channel 4 Racing UK presenter. The other day, Scott Hazelton put out a question. If Take Charge Brandy wins this, is she the 2-year-old filly champion over Lady Eli? And Nick Luck, who there may not be a more savvy surveyor of the international racing landscape, says that Lady Eli is the best 2-year-old in the world, turf or dirt, period, male or female. And he's right. And Take Charge Brandy is going to end up winning this vote. And frankly, it's a litmus test on people who understand horses, because she is, in this race particularly, again, absolutely dawdling fractions at 87 Beyer. She's run an 83, an 85, and an 87. I'm sorry. This is just a bad group of 2-year-old fillies on the dirt. Lady Eli is here. The rest of them are here.
And I don't necessarily disagree with what she's beating, but she showed up and won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly, which is the best 2-year-olds of the season. And so, who else does she have to beat? I mean, I just don't know that there's that many 2-year-old fillies.
She doesn't have to. She's beating European, the North American other mediocrities, and then there's Lady Eli, who beat a field of. Just because it's on turf doesn't mean that it's any less relevant to the quality of the horse. And Lady Eli is basically a woman among girls. And she's going to end up losing this Eclipse Award, and it's going to be a travesty because people are going to equate Lucas running back and running back and running back as some sort of heroic measure. Ask how that worked out for Strong Mandate and for Dublin. I don't get this, and frankly, she beat horses here that the people were saying, oh, it's a bunch of the horses from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Yeah, exactly. A bunch of mediocrities. And then she goes to Delta, and really clearly there's nothing that special out there. So she's the best dirt 2-year-old filly. That doesn't mean she's the best 2-year-old filly. It just means she's the best 2-year-old dirt filly. Lady Eli is the best 2-year-old filly. Period. And it's going to be sad that she's going to end up being denied a championship because she's the best of this group.
Yeah, all right. We'll see how it shakes out. I think Take Charge Brandy yesterday. It's solid now. But all right,
what can you do?
We'll head to our break. When we come back, we have some more replays to take a look at. A little bit later on, Matt Haggerty from the Daily Racing Forum and Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum as well. Stay tuned. Loose on the Lead continues.
Sepper kicking clear, and Go Sepper is pulling away impressively.
Hysterical Lady Ginger Punch to win it.
And it's Wilco in front, and he's going to pull off a huge upset here.
But it's Round Pond going on to take the distaff.
Awesome again. Sire of 10 Grade 1 winners, 4 Breeders' Cup champions, and 4 multimillionaires, standing at Adena Springs.
I'm Anthony Mormino, and after more than 30 years, HNC is moving. HNC and all your favorite OTV TV programming is moving from Time Warner Cable 12 to Digital Channel 8.2. Along with WXXA, you'll also be able to watch us on Comcast Cable 323, Midtel Cable 271, Mid-Hudson on 191, Verizon Fios 467, and Time Warner Cable on Channel 1250. For more information, log on to capitalotv.com.
It's more than just a sports bar. It's Stadium Cafe. Located at 389 Broadway in Saratoga, it's the place to be for great times and great food. Their menu features everything from gourmet entrees to your favorite wraps and sandwiches. Or maybe you just want to grab a beer and catch the game. So what can be better than that? How about 2 Stadium Cafes? There's also the Westside Stadium, right up the road at 112 Congress Street. Same great menu, same great service. Whether you're hanging at the bar or just relaxing outside on their spacious covered patio, you'll always leave knowing you'll be back again.
We love, above all, the staff. We love Dave Harmon, and the food is fantastic.
Not one, but two. 112 Congress Street, 389 Broadway. Guaranteed to be a home run.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrow and Steve Bick. Let's jump right back into some replays, and did want to show undercard race from Aqueduct yesterday, maiden special weight event. Wanted to show that because this may be a horse to keep our eyes on. We'll watch the stretch run from the second race yesterday. First time starter from Kieran McLaughlin at Stone Street Stable. It is number 4, Ocean Knight, getting it done as the 2-1 favorite and getting it done fairly impressively. Wins off by a little over 4 lengths in here. And again, in the career debut, a son of Curlin, first time out of the box, as I say. This may be one worth keeping our eyes on.
And what about Via Strada from Friday?
Yeah.
The 3-year-old that was delayed, the one out of Golden Velvet. So Kieran McLaughlin's got his name on these horses, of course, but it's Artie Magnuson keeping track of them at Aqueduct during the winter. And, you know, Kieran McLaughlin, you got to give Kieran a lot of credit and his clients, because they made the decision, 3 years ago maybe, to keep horses in New York when things became clear that there was going to be these better purse money available, and they've taken full advantage, and they leave a lot of nice horses. And of course, with Artie Magnuson, they're in good hands.
And Jeff talked a little bit earlier on the handicappers report when he took a look at today. McLaughlin and Stone Street have perchance in there, sibling to a Treaties.
Which is, very, and Dreaming of Julia, of course. There's a number of nice maidens, big pedigrees around the country today, virtually at every major venue. Gulfstream in New York, down in Fairgrounds, and out in California. I got notes on a bunch of them.
Also yesterday, the feature, the Queens County at Aqueduct, $100,000 on the line. They went 1 1/8. We'll watch the stretch run here. It'll be number 1, Micromanage. And I said it earlier on the handicappers report. We talked briefly about this horse. It's a Pletcher and Rapoli runner. Just a horse that when they spot him right can step up and run big. Was in against Grade 1 company in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Nothing there. But in races like this, on his day, he can run very well.
But what's strange about Micromanage is that he seems, you can see him, he's one-paced.
Yeah.
And typically they like to send him long. So I just wondered, if the distance was going to be too short for him and too long for Vijak, and instead they end up 1-2.
Yeah. And Vijak made a nice run.
Vijak ran well. He ran well.
Yeah, he made a nice run. I don't think he ever thought he was going to get to Micromanage necessarily, but he made a nice run. Down at Gulfstream yesterday, they had a nice stakes card, 4 stakes races. The Sugar Swirl yesterday, Grade 3 event for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going 6. It's the number 2, Mary Meadow, getting it done as the 5-2 second choice. The favorite in here, our free roll at 4-5, set the early pace, fades to finish 4th, but Mary Meadow for Mark Hennig gets it done.
Mark Hennig, by all rights, not to take away from Mabre Rose, who won the South Beach in the nightcap, but Mark Hennig should have won that South Beach as well. He by all rights could have won 2 of these 4 stakes with Baffle Me, who ran just great. And down inside, we'll see the stretch run of the South Beach. But Hennig is really kind of firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah,
going very well.
That was a nice day for him, and that was one of his winning. A little bit later, the El Prado for $100,000, 7.5 on the turf. It's number 7, Mishawish, getting it done for Todd Pletcher, and of course Gulfstream. Todd Pletcher, they go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Now this is a horse again. In terms of mutuals on the day, the stake races were very formful. That's Escaper, Ian Black's very nice. Horse out of Canada, I've been a big fan of since his 2-year-old year when he was second in the juvenile turf. And no denying Mishawish, who frankly at 3-2, that was like money in the bank. I suppose Liam's map at even money was also an overlay going in. Mike Welch will be with us in the last segment this morning, and Mike on Friday, he pretty much said, based on the workouts and based on everything coming into this race, it just seemed like Liam's map had this field. If Liam's map was going to continue to move forward, that he had this field pretty much at his disposal. Ended up, and we're going to watch right now, here is the Harlan's Holiday, and this ends up being a very exciting finish. Liam's Map does all the running early because he's engaged by Shaba, and now here is good old Valid, and Valid from Orlando Boca Chica and Marcus Vitale and Cross Sabres, and they hook up, and they are shoulder to shoulder, and considering that Liam's Map had to work hard and basically did all the running from the bell, still has plenty left, and you can see him galloping out, and it looks like there's your Don Handicap favorite, no matter who shows up. This is
only the 4th career start,
Yep.
so that was nice.
Yep.
Chiavarelli, who is still on the comeback here, showed some nice promise early in the career, but Chiavarelli winds up 4th yesterday.
He was only beaten 15 lengths.
Yeah. And then, as you noted, Marbury Rose was a horse I talked about on Friday as we previewed some of these races. I kind of like that horse. So, yeah, the over 3-1 price was very nice. But it was kind of a blanket finish, as you noted. Baffle Me runs second in here. The favorite was Sassy Kitten at 5-2. Sassy Kitten, 13 in the field of 13. But Marbury Rose gets it done for Christophe Clement.
Sassy Kitten I didn't get at all. I threw her in just to be protective, Rosario and Maker and Ramsey. But Marbury Rose was the talking horse coming into this, and clearly is a 3-year-old with upside, faces off against a cast of elders in only her 2nd start. She's now 2 for 2 in North America. The Irish bred has won well both of her starts. This is Monceau Stable and South American Partners, and Louis Saez took over, and I thought rode her absolutely perfect. As we mentioned, down inside you could have seen Baffle Me, who was trying to rally, and this was a good finish to what ended up being, frankly, I hit the pick 4 here. I paid $100 and change for 4 absolutely likely horses. It paid very well, and nice racing.
100 for 50 cents.
Yeah. Hit it for $1, and it was a good first Saturday of action at Gulfstream, and we'll get Mike Welch to talk more about what has gone on here the first full week. And as I mentioned, some maiden races today, a 2-year-old Perfect Flute you may want to be watching for in the 6th race. This is a Pleasantly Perfect filly that is a half to Falimbi, and the aforementioned Juddmonte Farms, one of theirs, out of the wonderful Flute. And we all remember Flute from, gosh, how long ago? 10, 12 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
Easily, yeah. It's got to be 2000.
I used Sky Gold in that race, but I had Falimbi in the mix.
2001 or 2001, I think. Alabama and the Oaks, and did she win the Gazelle? Flute was terrific.
And before we go to the break, just mention that nice Louisiana bred day
at
Fairgrounds yesterday. I saw the Sunbeam race, and Sunbeam becomes a millionaire in the Louisiana Champions Day Classic. A nice race. There was a little bumping in the stretch, and there was an inquiry, but it turned out it was the horses behind Sunbeam. Sunbeam, who had some trouble at the start and really had to work going down the stretch, but does get up by a neck as the 30-cent to $1 favorite.
And it's too bad we didn't think to. I figured the Louisiana bred day you're not going to be all that interested in. However, if you could pull up the replays, both the 4th and the 7th, the first 2 Louisiana bred races. First, you get Sunbeam, who was acting up in the gate and blows the brake, and so he has to rally, and you had that disqualification too. Watch My Smoke got pushed down from 2nd to 3rd. But then you want to see a performance. Pull up the Louisiana Day Sprint, the 7th race. Hayti ends up getting beat at 4-5 by Two Deem. Two Deem rears at the start, spots the field 6 or 8 lengths. I mean, is out of the picture. And then under Miguel Mena, picks them all up and ends up winning by a neck at the wire over Hayti. It is, you got to see it to believe it. You figure, and if you bet him at 9-2, you figure, you take your tickets, you throw them in the air, you tear them up, and then afterward you're picking up all the torn up shreds because he's a winner. It's tremendous. You also had at Fairgrounds on Friday, Unbridled Forever's sister, the full sister, Forever Unbridled. She broke her maiden at Fairgrounds on Friday. And later today, since we probably will not come back to Fairgrounds, I'll mention you've got Malibu Mogul for Steve Asmussen. This is a Y-God homebred out of Perfectly Pretty, who was the dam of Idiot Proof, who was a stone cold, running, sprinting fool. And you might remember Idiot Proof from maybe 10 years ago. This one, Malibu Mogul. But Asmussen also has a Regis Racing, a $450,000 chestnut making a debut too, named Dion. So the 8th race today at Fairgrounds, one of these 2-year-old races to watch.
All right, we'll head to our next break. When we come back, Matt Haggerty from the Daily Racing Forum. A little later, Mike Welch. All of that right after this. Stay tuned.
I don't know. You hang around here. What do you think?
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
We're moving. OTB TV is moving. Beginning January 1st, racing across America and all your favorite OTB TV programming is moving from Time Warner Cable Channel 12 to Digital Channel 8.2. Along with WXXA, you'll also be able to watch us on Comcast Cable 323, Midtel Cable 271, Mid-Hudson 191, Verizon Fios 467, and Time Warner Cable on Channel 1250. For more information, log on to capitalotb.com and we'll see you there.
I didn't want to get just any degree after high school.
Horse racing has always been my passion.
I was already a lawyer.
When I was young, my dad took me to the races. The sound of the crowd. I still remember.
I'm 40, and I don't want to stay in a career I don't love.
I want to follow my passion.
Follow your passion at the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to capitalotb.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. capitalotb.com. Log on today.
We're back on Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning, and Matt Haggerty is back in Kentucky after the trip to Arizona for the Symposium on Racing and Gaming. Each year, the students of the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program put on this conclave, and of course, there was a day when Matt was a fresh-faced freshman, and he was an RTIP student. Now he covers it and provides all the backdrop and coverage. Matt, good morning. And obviously another provocative few days at the University of Arizona Symposium.
Yeah, good morning, Steve and Seth. The main theme of the panels this year, they had 3 panels that dealt with basically the ramifications of the significant decline in the full crop from 2010 to 2012, specifically looking at how racetracks, horsemen, and the racing industry itself is going to adjust or needs to adjust to this decline. Most specifically, in the fact that if racetracks and horsemen don't agree to start cutting racing days pretty significantly, and all else being equal, that there's going to be some real big slides in field size, even more than the industry has experienced over the last 20 years, in which field size has dropped by a full horse down to roughly a little under 8 horses per race.
That topic, of course, was kind of broached from several different angles, and actually over a course of 2 days. And there were some fascinating pieces of information. And I thought, in fact, the Australian the Australian consultant that I'm going to forget her name, Jennifer Owen.
Jennifer Owen.
Yes. Her numbers, Matt, I thought were amazing. And I had Maury Wolf join me on radio the next day to kind of flesh them out. Talk about the impact of the field size on handle, because one of the things that was shown is we don't necessarily need 12 and 14 horse fields. If there's careful management, it seems, getting 6 horse fields to 8 or to 9, that is actually very productive. And it seems like there's a threshold and a optimal field size concept that the industry could really work off of and use as a target.
Yeah, it sounds like Maury Wolf must have hit on the right numbers and the right analysis of both Jennifer Owen's study, which included a regression analysis of industry statistics, and then also from Steve Koch from Woodbine, who had similar analyses. And really the takeaway from all of this, and I hope that I had written it up right as well, is that it's not that you need to push up field size to 9 horses per race. What you need to do is get rid of those races that have 5 or 6 horses. You do have a declining benefit for each additional horse to a race, and that benefit goes down pretty sharply once you hit about 12 horses. So it's not a matter of making sure that your maiden special weight New York bred race has 14 or 12 horses in it. It's making sure that allowance race, non-winners at 2, doesn't have 5 horses in it. If you smoothed it out, according to the Woodbine analysis, if you smoothed it out, you could be looking at a 25% gain. And you got to realize these are statistical analyses. So it holds absolutely everything equal in the world. But what it's saying is that, okay, if we took the same population of horses and we spread them out so that every race had 8 horses in it instead of half of them having 10 and half of them having 6, we would be able to increase handle by, according to the Woodbine analysis, by about 23%. Like I said, those are rough numbers. You have to hold everything else equal, but at the same time, it shows that there's a greater loss to handle by those 5 and 6 horse fields, which frankly you don't. If you're at a racetrack or you're talking with your buddies while you're on an ADW, the second a 5 or 6 horse field comes up, the discussion suddenly turns to, well, I'm going to play just one big exacta here and hope that it comes in, instead of doing what you do in a 10-horse field and spreading out and using a lot more of your bankroll, because that hidden in there is a result that gets you back 2 to 3 times what you might get in a 5 or 6 horse field, or in some cases 4 to 5 times. So it's really a management of your horse population and making sure that those race conditions, and this is something that probably needs to be tackled as far as racing secretaries, making sure that those race conditions that are drawing consistently 6, 7 horse fields now are drawing 8, 9, or 10. Obviously you want to make sure that the even scratches don't reduce you further. But that was the takeaway from these 2 studies. What's not needed is, or it's not necessary for field size. The field size could stay at 8, could stay at 7.9 over the next 2 years. And you'd probably benefit just as long as the racing population was managed better, and you made sure that every race had at least 8 horses in it.
Well, and to give everybody a number to wrap their mind around, when Ian Tapp from Blood Horse, or as you referred to them, Blowho, when Ian Tapp presented his numbers. Listen to this, and it's really amazing. I'm not a superfecta player. I'm a triple player and a multi-race wager player. But a 7-horse field, in terms of super combinations, offers 870 permutations. An 8-horse, that's a 7-horse field. An 8-horse field, 1,680 permutations. And a 9-horse field, 3,024. So you can tell right away the difference. You wouldn't think, glancing at the past performances, you would say, 9-horse field, 7-horse field, it seems about the same, when in fact A 9-horse field has the potential to produce such better returns when there's 3,000 plus combinations that can potentially come back. And that's what we're talking about here. The difference between the amount of horses and the amount of coverage necessary, and that's why when you get the big prices at the bottom of supers in big fields, that's how these numbers become not life-changing scores, Matt, but they become significant hits.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a neat way to focus on it. I mean, when you see such a dramatic number differential when you look at the Super Pool, but remember also just going through the exacta pool as far as the permutations. If you've got 12 horse field, you're talking about 132, whereas a 7 horse field, you're talking about 42. So that's kind of a stark way of looking at why field size generates such bigger handle returns, and it's because in those exotic pools there are more permutations. The payoffs are naturally greater just because of the number of permutations that are in there. But that is a good way, a good way of looking at it. Everyone in the industry knows that bigger fields produce bigger handle. It's not some secret. It's not something that the industry, just happened on. They've known this forever. The problem is the racing industry could get away with it a long time ago. Now you are in this serious crunch. According to the Equibase figures, if the industry keeps going the way it will, there's going to be a decline of 25% in field size in the next 2 years. That this industry is in such, is on such low margins that if it didn't have casinos, propping it up right now, it would be gone. There would be, I shouldn't say gone, but I would say that there would be serious pressure on at least 50% of the racetracks out there. And so the racing industry is going to have to do something. It's going to be forced to do something. And, it needs to start coming up with answers, which right now are in short supply because there are so many constituents that you have to get some sort of consensus as to what action the racing industry is going to take, and that takes participation and compromise from every party.
Well, Matt, that gets to, obviously talking about it was great, recognizing the problem is good, and realizing that, going from 6 to 8 is just as important as getting 10 or 12 horse fields. All of that, they've defined the problem and kind of come up with numbers that make sense. But did they talk at all about how they're going to get there? What are the potential ways to go from 6 horse fields to 8 horse fields? We've had this declining foal crop. How do they make the numbers work?
Yeah, I mean, how do you make the numbers work? I mean, that's the to use a cliche, the $64,000 question. The easiest way, or the way that seems to be the easiest, as far as just looking at it from a data standpoint, would be, well, you got to cut opportunities. You've got to cut races. You've got to cut racing dates, and that is going to draw, to boost the field size, just because all else being equal, horses and horsemen will have fewer opportunities, and they'll have to go into these races. But I think this has to be managed better. And one of the big ways you can do that, because you can't just take a racetrack, just can't go, or you can't take all 6 racetracks on the Northeast Seaboard and everybody go, well, you know what, then we're only running on weekends and we're dropping 2 days, because then you have this flood of races on the weekend. You're going to have regional cooperation between these tracks, especially those that are running at the same time. California is easy because it's on an island, basically. It can kind of manage its horse population on its own, but every other, basically every other circuit, at least east of the Mississippi, you have horses shipping all over the place. So you're going to have regional cooperation in which racing secretaries talk to each other. They say, okay, look, we're going to drop this date. If you guys drop that date, we're going to stop riding the same conditions at the exact same time on the exact same day, so that horses are targeting specific races, throughout that area. So, the easy answer is cut opportunities. You can at least maintain field size that way, but it's more complicated than that, and that you're going to need cooperation, and you're going to need a very good analysis of your racing card to make sure that you're getting the results you want.
Matt, also, before we wrap, a couple of other topics that came through. There was the supply conversation, of course, as part of this. There was the interesting idea, again, of paying down far into the field, which Martin Panza suggested. That test didn't really go so great at Monmouth a few years ago. There was the social media conversation, which I've kind of interesting to follow some of the presentation there. Anything else that you came away with that you thought was one of the highlights of the 3 days?
I think, looking at one of the things I you can't help but notice, but this, as someone noted somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, but LASIK came up a couple times in the conversations, on the panels, but very few times. There was not a panel on medication reform. There was some talk about it in a stewards panel late in the symposium, and it just appears to me that the Arizona Symposium is almost going back to kind of its roots of 20 years ago, which is, look, we're going to focus on the racetrack side of the issues facing the industry. We're not going to focus on some of these other things. And it actually, while it wasn't good from a reporter's point of view, in which you have these really meaty subjects you could write about every day, it did seem like that they were getting into the guts of what racetrack, operations people are really confronted with on a daily basis. And it was more kind of drilling down and kind of granular as far as the topics that they were discussing, which I think, I'm not sure about the transition they're making, but it almost seemed like it was somewhat of a good idea, because you did have operations people, in these rooms dealing with what would be called maybe, non-essential topics of discussion, but which were important to them, as far as their daily operations.
Well, and of course, for the University of Arizona students, this is always the highlight of their year, the planning, the execution, the mentoring, and of course, graduates like you spend time and have the mentoring luncheon. It is just a tremendous opportunity for the industry to pause and appreciate young people trying to come into the workforce at all different levels of the game. And of course, maybe the best recent news around Arizona and the university program, the return of Rillito Racetrack coming up next year.
Yeah, the return of Rillito, which, as I understand, is just going to be quarter horse racing. But as a guy who grew up in the Southwest, I don't have a whole lot of truck with quarter horse racing. I kind of enjoy it. I really enjoyed when the Red Mile had a brief meet here. So we'll see what happens there, Rillito. The quarter horse racing industry has its own problems, which are actually much larger than the thoroughbred racing industry. So, I wish them luck.
Matt, always great, and we appreciate all the detailed coverage and the fact that you did not go ahead and bop that one guy who was following the entire conference from the pool.
It's a little tough when you're stuck in a conference room all day and it's sunny and 75 degrees out. So.
Matt, thanks so much. Matt Hegarty, Merry Christmas. Happy best for 2015.
Happy holidays, guys.
Matt Hegarty, and he sent out one of the greatest tweets ever, where he said he was confronted at the seminar by somebody who said he loves Matt's detailed tweeting about the symposium because he was sitting out by the pool and didn't have to actually sit through any of the presentations. And Matt said, I almost hit him, and I can understand. We're going to hit Gulfstream after this. Loose on the Lead continues. We'll go down to Gulfstream, and no, we just had Matt. Mike Welsh next at the races.
It's more than just a sports bar. It's Stadium Cafe. Located at 389 Broadway in Saratoga, it's the place to be for great times and great food. Their menu features everything from gourmet entrees to your favorite wraps and sandwiches. Or maybe you just want to grab a beer and catch the game. So what could be better than that? How about two Stadium Cafes? There's also the Westside Stadium, right up the road at 112 Congress Street. Same great menu, same great service. Whether you're hanging at the bar or just relaxing outside on their spacious covered patio, you'll always leave knowing you'll be back again.
We love, above all, the staff. We love Dave Harmon, and the food is fantastic.
Not one, but two. 112 Congress Street, 389 Broadway. Guaranteed to be a home run.
Stately Victor, final furlong of the Toyota Bluegrass, runs right by Patio Prado. Alan Garcia and Stately Victor, a 40-1 upset.
Dinah Zappa holding on. Dinah Zappa win.
Horse of the Year Ghost Zapper, sire of 9 new stakes horses and 5 new stakes winners, including Grade 1 winner Stately Victor in 2010, standing at Adena Springs.
We're back on Loose on the Lead. Just finished with Matt Hegarty of The Forum. We'll go down to Gulfstream and check in with Mike Welch after the first full Saturday of action. Mike, and of course last week kind of specialized with the Claiming Crown. Now we're starting to get into the meat of the meat.
Yeah, no, yesterday was a great day. It really looked like the winter Gulfstream meet, more and more. As you say, we're going to get into it as we go on. Obviously, the best stuff's still not going to come until after New Year's, but it was a great day yesterday, and the bettors certainly reflected that. They bet over $9.3 million. The same card last year, or the same corresponding day last year, I think was 7.8. So there's smiles all around here.
Well, and of course, portions of the simulcast community still without the signal too, so that is notable in terms of the numbers that are coming in. Let's talk about the horses that came in, and of course one graded stake on the slate, that Sugar Swirl, and Mark Hennig, who is actually on a plane as we speak on his way back to New York to run today in the State-Bred Damon Runyon, but Merry Meadow, and this is really a very nice filly, but our free roll didn't really go off and do what she normally does on the front end.
No, and there's some consensus here from some people I talked to thinking maybe they just need to let her roll a little bit more instead of try to rate her like they did. Let her open up, let her just run away from them, and I haven't talked to Kirk Zadie, so I don't know what his take is on it, but she was a big disappointment. The other thing that I sort of thought might have been a factor, it didn't look like the rail, was the place to be yesterday in the main track. It looked like it might have been a little deeper down in there than several paths off the rail. So I know Liam's map was down inside and held off Valid, but maybe he's just that good and able to do stuff like that. But and they were 1 and 2 paths basically down the stretch. So, that could be a contributing factor. But we'll see. We'll get I'll try to get hold of Kirk and get a reason of what it better happen there.
Well, at that point, we then get to the middle of the later portion of the card, and back-to-back dominant performances from favorites. And Mishawish, certainly one of the more likely horses with Liam's map. We're going to watch the races and talk a little bit about these two winners who both, for Todd Pletcher, of course, couldn't have looked much better or been more impressive.
No, Mishawish looked like a horse that was getting better and better. Todd said that he really hasn't been able to get the trip that he wanted for him. He wanted to get him covered up behind some pace, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. And even though he got shuffled back a little bit early, once he got in the clear, he showed a nice turn of foot and did exactly what Todd has been expecting him to do, pretty much since he's gotten him last summer. So an impressive performance, and now he's going to put him on a trail that's going to point him toward the Gulfstream Park Turf Handicap. He said he may or he may not have one in between.
We then watch Liam's map, who did all the running, is confronted early by Shaba and sticks with Shaba. Then when Shaba starts to back up, here is Valid for Boca Chica and Vitali and Cross Sabres, and here they are shoulder to shoulder.
It was a great race, it certainly had the makings of a winter Gulfstream Park, exciting stake race. It was a graded stakes quality field, and obviously Liam's map is going to be heard from throughout the 2015 season. He's going to point to the Don Handicap now. Todd said he had two choices: run him here at a mile and a 16th off a 4-week rest, and then have a break before the Don, or wait for the House Hope, which was at a mile, and then be a little closer to the Don. And he chose more because of the distance of the two turns than the spacing. And now, coming off a hard race like that he had yesterday, I'm sure the extra 2 weeks will be just what he's going to need, have Liam's map up to a huge race in the Don.
And finally, we look at the South Beach. This was absolutely terrific. And gosh, Mark Hennig, I thought was going to win his second stake, because Baffle Me was just terrific. We'll watch, for those that are watching, look for the one horse down inside. Meanwhile, here's Mabra Rose making a second North American start, is going to be produced, and the one to catch. This ended up being an absolute thriller.
Yeah, I mean, Mabra Rose is a really nice horse, kind of the same reasoning Chris Clement used as Todd did with Liam's map, coming out of an A other than, but thinking that he really had a talented horse in his hands capable of making the jump into the stakes competition. And he was 100% correct. Anyone who had seen his her last race on tape had to like her. I made her my best bet of the day, and she got a great trip and needed every bit of it. Baffle Me, not as good a trip, and almost defended her title. I mean, she, a little longer, maybe she would have caught her, maybe not. I think Mabra Rose is a pretty good horse, and now she's actually going to be put away for a little bit and pointed for a 2015 campaign that'll probably start sometime during the spring.
I'll tell you who else ran well at a huge price was Red Minx for Milt Wolfson.
No, good effort there. I mean, it was an exciting race all around. So, and it was a great day. And the weather was cooperated, a little chilly to start, but warmed up as the day went on, a good crowd, and I think that's what we're going to see from now on in. The big fields, they love the big fields here. An incredible pick four pool, 700,000, and over 700,000. I think that caught everybody off guard. This is a $100,000 guarantee. I mean, that was obviously not going to be an issue, but to get up to over 700,000, and when you have good racing, like we did at the end of the day, 3 straight stakes, Aqueduct's over. You got the California people out there hanging around between races looking for a good signal of bad. So it was a good combination of circumstances here yesterday that made it a great day. And I think you're going to see the same thing. These Saturdays now, are loaded with stakes. That's it. Saturday is stake day, and period. No Sunday stakes anymore. So I think you're going to see more and more of this as the meet progresses as we go into the new year.
Mike, we're up against the clock, so we only got a few seconds left, but I wanted to touch on yet an article about Pletcher pointing Constitution and Danza to the Don. We haven't seen Danza since the Kentucky Derby. Have you gotten a look at him in the morning?
No, they're both up at Palm Beach Downs. I've got my guy up there doing that. I have to be here every morning, the clock, for the Clocker report. So I'm going to rely on Mr. Norton up there. Dave's a good clocker, and he's got a good eye, so he's going to be my eyes to that. Possibly a week before, I might head up and try to catch him work one time.
And of course, you mentioned the Clocker report, Mike, and we remind everybody you can buy for the weekend, or you still have plenty of time to get in for the season. One quick Clocker report question for today: who looks best coming into this very good maiden six today? That includes the sibling, or the sibling to Falimbi, the daughter of Flute, Perfect Flute.
Well, I think that horse has bred more to go long than anything else. I'm not so sure she's in the right spot there today. I haven't seen most of these, to tell you the truth. The only ones that have been in front of my eyes have been Ice Women, who scratched, Sky Gold, who's okay, not horrible, but looked like in a tough spot, and Celestine, who I've heard a few whispers on, but I know this horse was working very well in Monmouth, but just okay here from what I saw. I stabbed at Perfect Tapit for Graham Motion. Look, this horse has done most of his work or did a lot of his work at Fair Hill, but he's also worked at Palmettos, and I like the connections. I like the fact they reach out for Rosario. I'm kind of guessing in this race. The ones that have run, over at Gulfstream West, Momsy Laugh, among those, I guess you have to respect them. I think Momsy Laugh of that group, Breezy, another Cougar, also ran well over there, but of the ones that have run, I like Momsy Laugh. She was well-meant that day over there, didn't run badly against a more experienced rival, and the only problem with her is the inside post is pretty tough, going 6 furlongs for the 14-horse field or 13-horse field.
You know, you mentioned another Cougar outposted in the 13, and maybe this one wants to go a little longer. That's a half to East Hall.
Yeah, no, she ran better than I thought she would first time out. She hadn't shown that much in the morning to me, or at least in her last couple of works that I'd seen. I hadn't seen her prior to November 12th. She did come running late. I mean, the race did kind of collapse. The winner was that Rick Violet horse that opened up about an 8 or 10 lane lead, and it was getting kind of late at the end. But she was clearly second best, so you obviously have to respect her coming back here at a little further distance. But I'm guessing that the competition in here might just be a little tougher than she met that day. Although that horse of Rick's was good, very fast, and 5.5 suited that one perfectly.
Always suitable to have Mike Welch give us updates on Gulfstream. You can subscribe to the Clocker Report weekends or for the season. Mike, thanks so much.
My pleasure, guys.
All right, and I used Sky Gold in that 6th race, so I don't want to hear the Clocker say, not horrible. That is not a vote of confidence. All right, we're going to wrap up Loose on the Lead for this Sunday morning. Don't forget, the Springboard Mile, which a couple of years ago was productive. Last year, not so much, so we'll see what happens this afternoon.
Remington.
But if you have questions, comments, suggestions, looseonthelead@yahoo.com. We would love to hear from you, so by all means, hop on the computer and let us know what your thoughts are. All right, Seth Merrow and Steve Bick. We're hitting here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11 a.m. with Loose on the Lead. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. We'll see you again next week.